who publicly warned illegal immigrants in advance of a federal raid so they could evade federal agents.
Here's my message to Mayor Schaaf. How dare you? How dare you needlessly endanger the lives of our law enforcement officers to promote a radical open borders agenda?
Jerry Brown, the Democratic governor of California, responded defiantly. How dare the federal government try to enforce the laws of the United States, he said, in effect.
This is really unprecedented for the chief law enforcement of the United States to come out to California and act more like Fox News than a law enforcement officer. Now, the federal government ought to do its job and not blame California for its own inability to solve the problem. I do think this is pure red meat for the base, and I would assume, but this is pure speculation, that Jeff thinks that Donald will be happier with him, and I'm sure Donald will be tweeting his joy at this particular performance. This is basically going to war against the state of California.
Meanwhile, the mayor of Oakland responded with really the only arrow left in the progressive quiver. Of course, she called people racist, needless to say. Watch.
His comments were so consistent with this racist distraction, this fear-mongering that others, newcomers, outsiders, are making our country less safe.
Joe Aliotto Veronese is a former member of the San Francisco Police Commission. He's a candidate for San Francisco DA, and he joins us tonight. Joe, thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So I think you guys are getting punked by the Attorney General. I think he's trolling you, and here's why. Listen to this. I actually looked at the suit that was filed against the state of California, and it says in part this: the federal government is the preeminent authority to regulate immigration matters. This authority derives from the Constitution and numerous acts of Congress. Then I went back 8 years and took a look at a suit that the Obama administration filed on immigration against the state of Arizona, and it begins this way. The federal government has preeminent authority to regulate immigration matters. This authority derives from the U.S. Constitution and numerous acts of Congress.
That's right.
They're making the same case in the same words. So, like, you didn't object when Obama did it, but now it's racist? How does that work?
I don't think California is saying anything different. It's not California's job to enforce broken federal immigration law. It's just not. And that's what the sanctuary city, sanctuary state laws pertain to. It's exactly that. We're not
it's a little different than that. I mean, you're right. You're absolutely right. No state is obligated to enforce federal law. The federal government has all kinds of enforcement agencies. But what states can't do, and this has been settled law for more than 200 years, is obstruct federal law. They can't do that. And so when the mayor of Oakland warns people who are breaking federal law so that they might evade federal law enforcement, that is obstructing federal law. Do you see the difference?
Well, I understand why Mayor Schaaf did what she did. And specifically, she didn't put out any information that would have endangered anybody. That's just, that's just playing into fear. It really, they went on with their raids, people were arrested, that happened. I think what's really happening in these communities is what we have to be concerned about, and that's that the federal government, the federal immigration law is so broken. We have people that have been here for decades that have families that are U.S. citizens that are being torn away from their homes here and sent back to countries they just don't know.
Well, you disagree with the law. I mean, look, I get it. A lot of people, let me just say, a lot of people disagree with the law. And I mean, it's almost irrelevant for us to argue whether it's a good law or not. It's a law. And so the real question is,
it's a broken law.
It may be a broken law. You don't like it. A lot of laws I don't like either. The question is, can a state decide, because we don't like a law, that we're going to obstruct the law? And that's what California is doing. It is now illegal for private citizens in California to assist federal law enforcement authorities. And so I'm wondering, as a reasonable person, can you really defend that? Would it be okay for a state to say, you know what, it's illegal to cooperate with the FBI? Would that be okay?
Well, no, that wouldn't be okay. But that's not really what we're saying here. There's no specific law that says that you shall obstruct, any sort of legal process. That's not happening anywhere.
It's illegal to cooperate with federal law enforcement authorities. It's illegal in the state of California, according to your Attorney General, Javier Becerra, to cooperate with federal law enforcement authorities. How is that different from what happened in the South in the 50s and 60s? I know it's not the same, but legally it's not so different, is it? And if so, how is it different?
Let's be clear. no Californian has a legal obligation to cooperate with federal law enforcement.
We both agree. I'm not saying that. I'm saying
so
California has banned, hold on, California has made it illegal to cooperate, and here you have a sitting office holder actively undermining, obstructing federal law. You don't think that that's just as a legal matter, you don't like the law, I get it, but you don't think that that is going to precipitate a constitutional crisis? I mean, let's be real.
No, I don't. I think that there are interests at the local level that override the minutia of the differences in our argument.
The minutia. So let me just ask, since you've been in California a long time, your family's been in San Francisco for over 100 years, very famous family, Alioto family, grandfather, mayor of the city. You know the city really well.
Pretty well, yes.
Yeah. It's kind of falling apart, in case you haven't noticed. We checked today, the price of a U-Haul to go to San Francisco is $132 from Las Vegas. You know how much it costs to take a U-Haul from San Francisco to Vegas? $2,085, because so many people are leaving. So given the crisis in your city, why all the emphasis on people who aren't allowed to be here in the first place? Why not look after your own citizens?
We are looking after our own citizens, and people are leaving San Francisco for a variety of different reasons. There are also people coming to San Francisco. But the bottom line with this lawsuit, which is what we're talking about here, is that Jeff Sessions has to be very careful, because every good lawyer thinks twice about filing a lawsuit for this particular reason. They may get a bad result. And the Ninth Circuit, you never know what happens in the Ninth Circuit. They get a bad result.
I'm sure some federal judge in Hawaii will say Trump's not allowed to be president, but it doesn't change the underlying legal point, which I think we both agree is insane and is putting us on a course toward disunion, like California becoming its own country. Will you join us or them? Last question.
Well, come on. That's a ridiculous argument. I think the rest of the United States would be very happy to keep California's tax bases. I mean, among other reasons, you know,
Let me just say, you're always welcome to join us here.
The defense of our state. Thank you very much. I appreciate being here.
All right, Joe, call me. There's a way out.
All right.